Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast, brought to you by A Advanced Services and Fuse Networks. We're coming at you from the Creative Block Studios in Seattle, Washington. So Joe, to our new listeners and viewers tuning in, how did we start our podcast?
Sure. So it first started out as a Facebook group page, and the purpose was to bring business owners together to kind of just brainstorm, communicate, share ideas, ask questions, help one another out. And because we're a marketing company, selfishly, we get asked lots of questions around business and different areas of business. So we thought, what a better way than to bring on different guests to share their expertise with our audience to kind of just help other businesses out.
And Joe, would you do the honor of introducing our guest today, please?
So today we have Kelley from PeopleWork. Her topic, which is an amazing topic, from peanut butter to precision. Everyone welcome Kim.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be such a fun conversation. I told my PR person the title that we chose, and she just kept laughing. She's like, that's so perfect. So it's going to be a fun conversation.
That's awesome. So can you do us a favor to our audience and introduce yourself? Just tell us who you are, what you do, and how you got started doing what you're doing.
Sure. Well, I mean, you did the job of who I am. So what I do as the CEO and co-founder of PeopleWork is I basically predict the future workforce. That's at least what the goal is of the business model and the software system that we provide. And how I got started was really after 30 years of being in HR and technology and operations. My daughter came home after college, sat on the couch, very distressed. And I said, what are you doing? She said, I can't find a job in my major. And as a executive in HR, you can imagine that's kind of like you don't really get a badge in HR when your kid can't find a job, right? So you're like, what in the world are you doing? And it was her experience, the working world through her eyes, that made me think, I don't think we're doing the right thing in a lot of ways. And we being businesses and organizations who offer work for the people who need work as work changes, and to do it in a very, really humane way. So that's how I got started.
Nice. And so can you explain what basically what your company does just put it in general terms? So maybe our audience can understand a little bit better.
Well, I mean, what it generally does is prepare people for the future of work based on their personal preferences and where they are and what their physical attributes and attitudes and abilities are. So the ecosystem works for businesses who are thinking, I don't really know if or how or what it is that I need out of my workforce, meaning my existing employees, people that I haven't even met yet that I'm going to bring into my company. And PeopleWork for businesses helps them basically define that in the sense of, what do you want your company to accomplish? And then we go in the system automatically and say, well, because this is what you said you want to do, these are the kind of skills, this is the way that your workforce needs to think, and this is where and how you're going to meet them. And then we start to make those introductions for those future jobs that we're modeling. And then on the opposite side, on the individual side, we basically take that same experience, but we center everything we do around the individual. So we call it our AI Career Assistant. It is an app. We're about to release something super cool, though. So I don't want to do too much excitement around it because it is such a big thing. But all of your followers, they can follow up with you to see what we're doing later, just as a kind of like a next segment or follow up into this great conversation that we're having, how we're using technology to help people prepare for the future of work. But with the app, somebody can use a variety of features to basically frame up what they want out of their work life, what goals they want to achieve. And there's a few features and components within the technology that allows us to either take a picture of your face and predict your future, or walk you through various conversation-based conversations that let us get to know you and what you want. And then we start to make recommendations around what you need to learn, who you should connect with, and then frame up future jobs that people don't even know are available. So between the two platforms, that's what comes together to make the PeopleWork company work. And the result of that is what builds up that future workforce.
That's awesome.
So let's get to know you, the individual. So we asked our guests a couple of the same questions. I'll ask the first one. So what are some early lessons learned as an entrepreneur?
Some early lessons learned as an entrepreneur. Fail fast, fail hard, and recover quickly.
Nice.
That's probably the best thing that I did learn early on, but I don't know if I consciously was learning it. Hindsight is 2020. So now, I can say that that's exactly what I've done as an early entrepreneur, and that has what has brought me success for sure.
Nice. So in the years of experience of launching your company, what's been the best piece of advice you've been given?
Know your audience, know what you're doing, and know who it is that you're selling to and what value you're bringing to them as soon as you possibly can. And that was exactly how I didn't do things. That's why when we were talking about what I've learned as an entrepreneur, there's some times when business owners, you have such a broad, or you have a concept. I shouldn't say business owner. You're thinking that you're going to do something. And it's a big, broad vision. And of course, you always say, well, how many people can benefit from that? And with PeopleWork, that is exactly where I started. Like, well, this is a problem that's universal. It touches all ages, all demographics, all industries, all countries, all companies. But when you're a startup, you should never do the peanut butter spread. Like, that's awful. That's the worst business strategy ever. So knowing exactly who has the biggest skin in the game to be able to be vested in what you're doing sooner rather than later is definitely the best rule that I've been able to learn. But I guess going back to that first response of failing fast, failing hard, and recovering quickly, you kind of got to merge both of them to actually get to that winning point for sure.
And the last question we like to ask, since this technically we're a marketing company, we love asking our guests, why is marketing important?
Well, you can't do anything without communication. And I think of marketing as communication. And let's just go back to the errors that I made in the peanut butter spread. Of I can tell anybody who's willing to listen about what it is that I have to offer. But that who is willing to listen is the most critical part of your communication that allows you to market effectively, I think, to actually create revenue for your business. So an example is if I am saying to somebody, here's a tool to get a job. That's I'm choosing that as my communication outlet. But everybody wants that. Like, out of the sea of thousands of companies that are trying to use jobs as their essential business model, anybody can say that for any given reason. But when you find your voice and you're able to market that effectively to the audience that does care about what it is that you care about in the way that you're doing it, you'll actually be able to achieve business results, I know, faster than what you would do if you were just, being very, very big and broad about whatever your message is. So it's not just, is marketing important? It's being prescriptive about the marketing that you're doing and using it as a means of communicating your value to whomever is willing to listen, not just whether or not you can throw out a social media post and post and pray. That's not at least how I'm referencing the value of marketing when you ask me that question. I mean, believe me, I tried that, and post and pray doesn't work. It just does not work.
Awesome. So now we come to our first sponsored segment, our A Advanced Services Pump You Up Quote of the Day. So I asked you for a quote, and Father's Day just passed, so it's fitting you picked a quote from your dad. I'll read it and then want to get a thought from you. Time is the most emotionless component of life. Doesn't care how you feel, what you want, what you do with it, or how you spend it. It's going to go on no matter what you do. So why is that so important to you?
Well, it's the one universal component of the human experience. Who is not impacted by time? The answer is no one. And
No one.
the way that you treat that is really a reflection of how you treat every day of your life. So my dad's purpose in saying that to me, my dad was, and his character and the way that he did life was almost, I guess, now I'm thinking of this out loud. It was a physical manifestation of all of the things that I've just said about really the way that business works or how I have learned my lessons about work. He would be fearless to try, knowing that he could fall flat on his face. He would be very clear in his communication. Like, why are we having this conversation? Let's figure out what this relationship really needs to mean. And that really was his communication style. And then when I got older and he said that to me when I was in a sports event, and I'm like, I just don't want to do this. And he's like, well, fine. Whether or not you sit down and don't play, no one really gives. No one cares. I don't know. I want to make sure this is PG. So no one really cares but you.
You're fine.
You and time. Those are the only two elements of life that are going to care whether you sit in, sit out, or play till you're dead on your face. And that was really the aha moment that that's the one thing that you have in common with everyone, but it is the one thing that you constantly can at least control or choose how to participate in.
That's awesome. Now we come to the Fuse Network's Did You Know segment. So
millions of cyber criminals are out there on a daily basis trying to steal your information. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Small businesses account for 58% of cyber attacks annually. So help your company fight cybercrime and mitigate risk by being proactive. Call Fuse Networks, your local Seattle IT experts at 206-701-6040 for a complimentary IT network and security assessment.
I asked you for a couple of statistics and myths and everything that we'll read and have you debunk the myth or verify the statistics. So Joe, do you mind reading the first one, please?
Yeah. Following your purpose will make you happy.
No, that's totally a myth. Following your purpose can make you absolutely miserable. I can tell you right now that my purpose in life comes with a lot of weight. I don't know if I really know anybody that's like, gosh, I really woke up today and my purpose I felt was saving kids from maybe a not so good situation, or my purpose in life is to just completely non emotional about it, but like I just want to make a lot of money. That journey to do that purpose is a beat down. Like I don't know if that's true at all. That's still a myth. I don't like to make that one.
This next stat: 7 in 10 people are choosing to opt out of formal work and formal education due to skepticism on return on effort. So talk to us about that one.
Well, I do. That's true. That is a fact. And I think that the reason why that is a fact is because we're in the digital era and we're in the era of AI, and we're way past the era of information. And when you put all of those 3 components together, people get transparency about what's going on in the education system. People get and share their experiences with formal corporate America. And also younger generations have heard the stories from their parents about what it feels like to actually work in a formal corporate setting, and what it feels like to have to recuperate from unreasonable amount of education debt that parents are still paying off when their kids go into college, right? So I think there's a lot of factors that have made that true. And the only individuals that have maybe something to lose in this new, with that fact of the way that people are behaving, are formal education systems that believe that education is transactional and also linear. And the corporations that actually still think that an application system that's resume based and a 17-stage interview cycle is interesting or effective for anybody.
Right.
Well, then we talked during our discovery call, I have a college daughter, you have a college child, and they pick the educational institution, you get a degree, and then you leave, and sometimes the work you start, your career path isn't what you studied for, and then all the debt stuff too. But then in the changing landscape of the employment economy now, this gig economy, and you could get a good quality job without going to like a formal education, getting other real world experience. So sometimes, you're a square peg in a round hole. You grew up your whole life, but there's another peg that you didn't know that existed, that if you would have known, you may have found your career path sooner, is part of what you want to kind of unlock with people's potential or where they're at. Because you may have chosen a job I got to support a family, feed my family, I want to grow a family, but then you're not ultimately happy, like your passion, that's kind of what you're trying to like unlock, right? Where you want to pick an optimal career that checks all the boxes, ideally, if that exists.
Well, and I think let's peel back some of the statements that you just made. The career path, the box, the earning the income, the collection of knowledge that we recognize as formal education. All of that we can almost, I wouldn't say like put a little bomb in it and explode the way that we think about those things, but I think, I know life and how people are choosing to live it are putting little, what I call, like when you play Mario Brothers, you put the little bomb into the box and it blows up whatever it is that's in front of you, like in a video game. That's what I think of these concepts. And what I mean by I'm going to give you an example. I actually just went through a very fascinating conversation with somebody who is the leader of HR at a very large organization. And she was going through learning about PeopleWork. And she said, well, how do you know if somebody is qualified for a job if you're not using a resume to evaluate them? And I said, if you went through your own application process, would you get the job? Would you get your job that you have today? And she thought about it for a second. And I said, when is the last time that you actually applied for a job? And she thought about it for a second. And I said, now think about all of the things that you have experienced in your professional life, all of the skills and the knowledge that you've developed. Now tell me, do you think what you could put on a 2-page piece of paper that says you have a degree and that you did these things in these stages is a representation of your capabilities, your capacity? And she said, no. So now I'm thinking, well, if we know that as somebody who's in HR or as business leaders, we know that's debunked. Like we're setting up like this false series of expectations. Yep. But on the individual side, for your daughter, for yourself, for really anybody, work is about income and using skills. It wasn't until 1950s, 1960s when this weirdo corporate model of saying one education degree is supposed to immediately provide you value for an amazing job. And then that amazing job is going to be so broad in terms of what it's asking for you to do that we're going to stick a salary on top of it and say that's value. And we just never moved past that. Now you see major platforms, and we'll just take rideshare apps. Why are rideshare apps so attractive? Skill focused, on demand, income flexibility. Why are shift sharing apps for food service or hospitality so important? Well, or so adopted so widely. Flexibility, no barrier to entry, and you're able to align exactly the skills that you need. And we've been seeing this for like 10, 15 years, just get bigger and broader and bigger and broader. Fiverr, Upwork, all of the staffing agencies that have turned these platforms into commoditizing tasks, they already were seeing the trend. So whoever is still buying into the idea that human beings will learn everything they need to know with one education bundled up in one package is living like a matrix kind of life experience. They took the blue pill where everyone else is taking the red pill now. And the idea that compensation is like, hey, if you're going to come in and be an assistant for me, I'm going to give you this basic compensation. And by the way, I'm going to make sure that you do this task and this task and this task. But then you go to another platform that's for executive assistants, and they get paid based on the work product of their task. Like there's this whole different universe that you've got to choose where you're going to live in order to get out of the baggage that we've had for 40 years about that traditional linear generalized process between education and work and how we think about our ability to earn an income. Because now, and that's exactly what PeopleWork is designed to do, is say you are a plethora of things. And in order for you to find out how those skills, abilities can be commoditized, you need to be thinking much broader than one job with one resume, with a click of an ATS system, and thinking that one degree is going to get you there. It's just not.
So sorry, you got me on a soapbox.
I was like so pumped.
I know, because I could relate, and I have some, I have skin in the game now now she just finished her freshman year, but I don't want to be selfish in our topic, so let's talk about it a little more, from peanut butter to precision. Joe, share some thoughts on where we want to go.
So the purpose really of the peanut butter precision is, as a company, you went from starting your company to growing your company to what, $25 million in 5 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So really the purpose of the topic is to go over some of the ways that you did that, to be able to share with our audience so maybe they can also implement that within their business. So can you share your journey and how it started, and maybe some of the mistakes that you made, and then how you change things to get more precise on what you do in your message in order to grow? Absolutely.
Well, let me start with saying I'm not blind to my market. I was coming from HR, being a consultant in HR, doing nothing but tech. I went into starting PeopleWork with eyes wide open about what a saturated space I play in. The idea of commoditizing time and jobs and what it means to collect value out of really the workforce. It's been around forever. And as of today, there's probably more than 1 million different businesses that are trying to get a little piece of a $900 billion piece of pie. And when I went into it, I thought, well, what we're going to do, how we're going to do is different. How we're going to do things is different. But how do I get through the sea of politics, relationships, software systems that never die, like the cockroach systems that never die? They're going to be in a company forever. I had to think about 1000% messaging and marketing. And earlier on, when we were talking about all my lessons learned, like that peanut butter spread that I started with in 2018 was really an accepted stupid decision. Like there's some decisions in life you're just like, this is the worst thing ever, but I don't know if there's any other way around it. My decision was that I'm going to mass market the message because I needed to get some sort of acknowledgement of who was my actual buyer. So some people have the luxury of starting differently. Like you can do a whole bunch of workshops and, like your personas are super prescriptive. But I had a different kind of challenge for PeopleWork because thinking of a persona in a tactical way was never going to work for me, because everything that we're doing, our buyers have a value and a point of view alignment. So when I started doing, I was like, okay, here's my peanut butter spread. I'm going to see who takes. And that was very expensive. And like I said, very stupid. Like I would never recommend that for anybody. It took me 2 years to go through that entire funnel refinement process. And I got there through different stages of asking questions, understanding more about the consciousness of my customers to figure out, like, what are you interested in? What did you read? I would provoke conversations with them that are not normal business to business conversations. Like, Trump was on the news today. What did you think? Or what I would do that on purpose because I wanted to understand if I had a pattern in what mental framework my customers were in. Now, 3 years later, I was able to take this big peanut butter spread of everyone, take my lessons learned about collecting intentional feedback, knowing that my goal was going to be about capturing the mind frame of my customer, not just are you age 18 to 24 and do you have a chief HR title, or are you a parent, or are you a teacher? Like the title shift and the way, almost back to what we were just talking about, those buckets. Like we're so used to being put in these buckets. It's just awful, these rails that we're so used to staying under. So I was just like, I don't want any of those, because I don't think there's a pattern to any of those that's useful to me. So then 3 years into it, the funnel's like way out here, and then I got here. And all this while, I'm really not changing anything that I'm doing for marketing. My brand vibe is kind of out there, but I think I changed my website 11 times. Like it was not, This was not a simple journey at all. I think that we shut down and restarted our social channels 4 or 5 times. Like, oh, throw that away. That was a waste. Like it was so interesting and painful to do all of that rework. So if your listeners are in a point where they're like, oh gosh, I'm glad I never had to do that kind of a wide peanut butter spread, that's a good thing that's a good stage to be in. But now, when I got to year 3.5, at the end of year 3.5, man, I was right on, super prescriptive. I knew who was going to buy on my Work Hub side, which was for organizations. And I knew exactly the kind of parents and individuals and military and transitions and transitioning to civilian jobs and adults that were always looking to reiterate their career and stay on top of their own goals and own I got those personas down. And only when that happened did the business start to really churn. It really became more of a scalable business platform. A platform because of our customers. And if I never had done that, but essentially that 3.5 years and $5 million of investment to learn that, I would not have gotten to $25 million in sales.
So let's talk about the marketing aspect of it. what types of marketing did you implement? So what types of marketing failed? And then what types of marketing worked as far as getting your company in front of your ideal customer?
What failed, and I think certainly is going to continue to only perform worse, was anything having to do with email. Email was like the big bomber consistently. We tried well, I'm sure you guys have probably done many, actually I know you did. There's plenty of educational sessions on that whole omni approach to marketing, your email, your engagement messaging, your social, your paid ads. We like email in terms of prospecting, we really don't do unless it's a very controlled use case for that. Social media, we only started to treat as like an awareness. Like if somebody were to look up what we were, that there would be something present on the channel that represented our brand. Video and content production and storytelling is what makes it work for us. Our YouTube channel, even though we don't have a lot of viewership on our YouTube channel, the content that we redistribute through various means of distribution, either through text message or through instant messaging on groups or whatever, those very personalized. Like our list of targets and how we communicate to our customers and where we communicate to our customers is pretty long. But it's that content, that storytelling that we then distribute to those very specific channels that have worked just hands down much better than anything else that we have ever done.
Where do you distribute that video content to? Is there like specific, are you like doing TV commercials? Are you doing it through social? Like where are you distributing your video content to get in front of your audience?
So social groups are the number one. So we will make sure that we are either sponsors of or active members in the right communities that are our target groups. And then we are able to share within those community groups different, just social posts and different video content about what we're doing. Yes, we do paid media. We do distribute quite a bit of paid media through that is resold on different content platforms, but it's primarily video that makes it work. And it's not video like I'm doing a Vanna White demo of my product. That's not at all what it is. It's our customers that are talking. And when I had no customers, that's the kicker. Everybody's like, where's your customer customer, what do you call it? Customer testimony. I'm like, I just started. I have no customer testimony. What are you talking about? And then I realized I was the customer testimony. My whole career, my daughter, we just got on telling our story about how we got to where we got and why we're offering what it is that we're offering. And that was my customer testimony. It's not scripted. It is our real life. It is what has happened to us. I didn't create this in a vacuum. I didn't create it without firsthand knowledge and experience of the problems and solutions that we're solving. So that kind of content is what we just continue to produce today. And it works very well.
So last question. So in your business career, growing this business, what has been your greatest satisfaction?
Well, my greatest satisfaction is always that customers get what I sold them. Like the experience.
Can I have you share the story of that you did a discovery call where I believe it's in the railroad company where a guy was literally doing the hands-on and then the company kind of hired you and that moved him into an executive role? Can you share that story of how your platform works and how it can change someone's life?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because that is exactly what I mean by the customers get what I sold them, what the experience is. We were brought into a construction company who part of their service is to basically redesign and rebuild railroads and railways. And the whole project was really didn't start off the way that we ended up starting to execute it. the introduction conversation was from this organization was they needed help to be able to upskill and reskill their employees as they continued to change how they were delivering building construction services, et cetera. And they thought, well, no, they went through the demo with us and like, gosh, this might be a little too techy for our audience. Like, I don't know if our employees are going to really dig this. And I said, well, give me the hardest one, because they always do. They're always like, set me up for failure. I'm going to give you the hardest group of people, the ones that write the nasty grams to HR. We're going to give you those people, and you continue to try to change your life. But what we got was what they call are the field workers, and the field workers are doing the hands-on construction, the materials, the labor, actually spiking down the railway tracks. And a guy was on his lunch break. And he decided that, hey, I'm going to try this thing. And this thing happened to be our AI career assistant. And he went through the FACE code and it provided some recommendations on what we believe are the right level in terms of complexity of job, the way that he thinks. And then he kind of kept playing with the app and built up some of the skills that he'd like to learn. And it matched with one of their, what do they call them? The project, the leader of the project, the leaders that actually manage and facilitate the core projects. But it ended up being part of their executive fast track program. And it was an opportunity that the company was looking for external candidates for over 8 months. And so we got the phone call from the person who was managing our project, and she was just floored to know that somebody who was already inside the company, somebody who already knew the business, who was a technical laborer, was going to meet the thinking requirements and the ownership and attitude requirements to perform at a management and executive level for their company was just amazing. And so I just had a status meeting with that company 2 weeks ago, and they've identified at least 35 more people out in this particular field group that is already on a very similar path in terms of just broadening their career scope with the company. And it's exciting because the assumptions that were made, and it's very typical about leadership. Sometimes leadership gets in their own way of the success of their people because they're thinking they know what they're going to do with it. They think that, well, something in the past didn't work. And sometimes it's true. Sometimes, lessons learned, you don't want to do a mistake twice. But when something comes along, and things are going to come along like this, like PeopleWork more and more frequently, where innovation is it's just changed. It's just a different experience. I'm just grateful that this particular company was willing to agree with me. Hey, let's just try. And because we tried, now we're winning. And now we're providing these great, just human, amazing stories and changing people's lives. This was, it was exciting. So I love that. That's my favorite part.
So for businesses out there that want to learn more, what's the easiest way to connect with you or learn more?
Well, first it's to figure out how to spell my company's name. It's PeopleWerk. It's PeopleWork spelled phonetically. And that's the best way to reach out to me because you're going to find the chat icon there. You can be able to start a conversation with anybody. And if you say, I heard Kim on Ask Valor Masterminds and I want to talk to her, that's the best way to get in touch with me, either through my company or on chat. But go visit the website and see what we're all about because it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Good deal.
So on behalf of our sponsors, Advanced Services and Fuse Networks, my name is Galen.
I'm Joe. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us online.
Coming at you from the Creative Block Studios in Seattle, Washington. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast. And again, Kim, thank you so much. Your insight was great.